Metropolis, 1927. Metropolis is a towering achievement in science fiction cinema, directed by the visionary Fritz Lang and released during Germany's Weimar Republic era. The film portrays a sprawling, dystopian city sharply divided between the wealthy elite and the oppressed working class. Featuring a powerful narrative on class conflict and industrialization, it was one of the first major science fiction films to combine cutting-edge visual effects with social commentary. For decades, the film was seen only in truncated form, with scholars and fans speculating about the lost content. The edited versions left plot holes and made some character motivations seem sudden or unclear. Despite this, Metropolis maintained a revered status for its visual innovation, particularly the transformation sequence of the robot Maschinenmensch, which has been endlessly imitated and parodied. This incredible find allowed archivists and film preservationists to begin a meticulous restoration process. The newly restored version was re-premiered in Berlin in 2010, offering modern audiences a glimpse into Lang's complete vision for the first time in over 80 years. The return of Metropolis in its near-original form deepens our understanding of early science fiction, cinema's ability to comment on society, and the enduring relevance of classic storytelling through visual innovation. Sherlock Holmes, 1916. The 1916 film adaptation of Sherlock Holmes holds a unique place in the history of early cinema and literary adaptation. It starred American stage actor William Gillette, whose portrayal of the famous detective had become iconic on the stage. Gillette's interpretation defined Holmes for a generation, introducing the curved pipe as a visual trademark that would become synonymous with the character. Directed by Arthur Berthollet and produced by S&A Studios, the silent film wove together elements from several of Arthur Conan Doyle's original stories. Gillette's calm demeanor, subtle expressions, and theatrical finesse brought a refined realism to the detective that had been largely missing from earlier, more exaggerated silent portrayals. For decades, the film was presumed lost, a casualty of nitrate decomposition and careless storage practices that plagued early cinema. Scholars and fans long hoped for a rediscovery, but the odds seemed increasingly remote with each passing decade. The narrative changed dramatically in 2014 when a complete negative was unearthed in the Cinémathèque Française's archives. Today, Sherlock Holmes, 1916, offers more than nostalgia. It bridges literary, theatrical, and cinematic history. It enriches our understanding of how fictional characters are shaped across media and showcases the timeless appeal of Holmes. Wings, 1927. Wings, directed by William A. Wellman, was the very first recipient of the Academy Award for Best Picture. Released in 1927, this silent film set during World War I remains one of the most visually dynamic and emotionally resonant works of its era. Starring Clara Bow, Charles Buddy Rogers, and Richard Arlen, Wings combines breathtaking aerial sequences with a touching human story about friendship, sacrifice, and the horrors of war. The plot builds around themes of loyalty and tragedy, culminating in a heart-rending finale that remains powerful nearly a century later. Wings was a technical marvel for its time. The dogfight sequences, shot with real planes and daring stunt pilots, set a new standard for cinematic realism. Despite its success, Wings eventually fell victim to the limitations of silent film preservation. Nitrate degradation and the transition to sound cinema led to shortened versions circulating for decades. While Paramount retained some elements, many parts, including original color tinting and nuanced visual flourishes, were considered lost. Viewers were once again able to experience the film as 1920s audiences did, vivid, emotional, and thrilling. Wings is more than a war film. It's a foundational piece of cinematic history. Its rediscovery and restoration celebrate not only early technical innovation, but also storytelling that speaks to the enduring costs of war and the resilience of human bonds. Today, Wings flies high among the greatest rediscovered classics of the silent era. Their First Misunderstanding, 1911. Their First Misunderstanding is not just a short film. It marks a foundational moment in the history of American cinema. Released in 1911, it features a then 18-year-old Mary Pickford, making it the first film where she received screen credit. This recognition signaled the emergence of the concept of the movie star, and Pickford would go on to become one of the most iconic figures of the silent film era. The film, co-starring her then-husband Owen Moore, was a domestic comedy that revolved around a young couple's trivial quarrel that escalates due to a series of misunderstandings, a theme that resonated well with early audiences. The film was directed by George Lone Tucker, a pioneering figure in film production. For decades, their first misunderstanding was presumed lost. Early silent films were considered disposable after their theatrical run, and nitrate decay claimed countless reels. In fact, film reels were frequently recycled for their silver content or simply discarded due to the lack of perceived long-term value. Preservationists stabilized the print and transferred it to safer archival stock. The rediscovery sent ripples through the film community, not only for its content, but also for the hope it offered regarding other presumed lost films. Today, their first misunderstanding is seen as a cornerstone of early cinema. It provides valuable insight into Mary Pickford's development into America's sweetheart and serves as a critical artifact of early Hollywood storytelling. Tarzan and the Golden Lion, 1927. Tarzan and the Golden Lion holds a unique place in the history of adventure cinema, particularly as one of the lesser-known silent-era adaptations of Edgar Rice Burroughs' famous jungle hero. Released in 1927, the film stars James Pearce, who would later voice Tarzan on the radio in his only cinematic outing as the character. It's a classic tale of good versus evil, infused with exotic settings, daring rescues, and a noble beast as a loyal ally. Though produced on a modest budget, the movie relied on lush jungle backdrops and action-packed sequences to draw in audiences. Despite the film's popularity at the time, Tarzan and the Golden Lion became one of many silent films to fall into obscurity. As the industry transitioned into sound, many studios discarded their silent libraries, seeing them as commercially obsolete. Compounding this, the fragile nitrate film stock used during that era was highly flammable and prone to rapid deterioration if not stored properly. After careful restoration work, the film was once again viewable, though still somewhat incomplete in places. Today, Tarzan and the Golden Lion is celebrated among silent film aficionados and Tarzan enthusiasts as an important chapter in the evolution of the iconic character. With its reemergence, audiences gain insight into early cinematic interpretations of a hero that would evolve for generations. The Life and Death of King Richard III, 1912. The Life and Death of King Richard III holds the distinction of being the earliest known American feature-length film adaptation of a Shakespeare play. Released in 1912, it was produced by the Film Guild and directed by James Keane. The film starred Frederick Ward, a well-known Shakespearean stage actor, in the title role. Though filmed during the nascent years of cinema, this version of Richard III showcased a theatrical grandeur and ambition rare for its time, running nearly an hour, much longer than most productions of the era. Like many silent-era films, The Life and Death of King Richard III was presumed lost for decades. It was overshadowed by later, more famous adaptations and became a ghost in film history. Many early Shakespeare adaptations suffered similar fates due to nitrate decay and the lack of long-term storage foresight by early film studios. As interest in silent Shakespeare films grew, scholars yearned for their return. But for years, only promotional materials and anecdotal accounts survived. The Life and Death of King Richard III is more than just a historical footnote. It's a living document of theatrical and cinematic convergence. Its rediscovery fills a crucial gap in early American film history and demonstrates that even in its infancy, cinema was reaching for the heights of classical storytelling. It stands as a tribute to Frederick Ward's talent and to the power of Shakespearean drama to endure across media and time. Bartalis the Magnificent, 1926. Bartalis the Magnificent is one of the most captivating rediscovered silent swashbucklers of the 1920s, directed by King Vidor and starring the dashing John Gilbert. Released by Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in 1926, the film was based on a novel by Raphael Sabatini, author of other adventurous tales like Scaramouche and Captain Blood. Set in the courtly intrigue of 17th century France, Bartalis the Magnificent offers a compelling mix of romance, politics, and swordplay, with John Gilbert at the peak of his fame and charisma. The film centers around the Marquis de Bartalis, a charming and roguish nobleman who wagers that he can win the heart of the beautiful but skeptical Roxelane de Lavedon, played by Eleanor Boardman. The film gained a mythical status among cinephiles, seen as a lost gem from the golden age of silent adventure. Remarkably, in 2006, a nearly complete print was discovered in a French archive. Though a few reels were still missing, these gaps were later filled with additional fragments and stills, allowing a nearly complete restoration of the film. The restored version was screened at silent film festivals and received widespread acclaim, not just for its historical importance, but for the vitality of its storytelling and performances. Bartalis the Magnificent now serves as a testament to King Vidor's flair for visual storytelling and John Gilbert's magnetism as a leading man. Its rediscovery brought back a vivid example of the romantic adventure genre, and it continues to enchant new audiences with its charm, wit, and cinematic craftsmanship. The Passion of Jonavar, 1928. The Passion of Jonavar, directed by Danish filmmaker Carl Theodor Dreyer, is widely regarded as one of the most powerful and visually distinctive films in cinematic history. Released in 1928, it dramatizes the trial and execution of Joan of Arc, the 15th century French heroine and martyr. The film stars René Jean Falconetti in a performance that has been celebrated as one of the greatest ever captured on film. Dreyer's approach was revolutionary. He eschewed traditional storytelling devices and instead relied heavily on extreme close-ups, stark sets, and natural lighting to create an almost spiritual atmosphere. Falconetti's face, haunted, trembling, and resolute, is the canvas upon which Dreyer painted a harrowing and intimate portrait of suffering and sanctity. Film historians despaired that Dreyer's original vision might be gone forever. Then, in 1981, an astonishing discovery was made in the unlikeliest of places. A janitor at a Norwegian mental institution found a film canister labeled as the Passion of Joan of Arc. Inside was a nearly complete print of Dreyer's original cut. Today, The Passion of Joan of Arc is a staple of film studies and frequently ranks among the greatest films ever made. Its rediscovery reaffirmed the importance of global film preservation efforts and the serendipity sometimes needed to recover lost art. The film's haunting imagery, emotional intensity, and innovative techniques remain as potent now as they were nearly a century ago, a timeless monument to cinema's expressive power. A Page of Madness, 1926. A Page of Madness is a landmark of Japanese silent cinema and a pioneering example of experimental film. Directed by Teinosuke Kinugasa, the film was released in 1926 and broke with the traditional narrative structure in favor of a dreamlike and fragmented visual experience. The story centers around a janitor working in a mental asylum who is tormented by guilt over his wife's institutionalization. Through surreal imagery, disjointed editing, and psychological symbolism, Kinugasa offers a harrowing dive into the mind of a man unraveling. The film's production involved members of the Shinkankakuha New Sensation movement, an avant-garde literary group that sought to bring a more modern and expressionistic approach to storytelling. The lack of dialogue and traditional plot made it difficult for audiences of the time to understand, and the film soon faded into obscurity. For decades, it was considered lost, a casualty of Japan's often fragile archival practices and the chaos of World War II. Kinugasa himself believed it was gone forever, providing insight into an era and style of Japanese filmmaking that had largely vanished. Today, A Page of Madness is hailed as a masterpiece of avant-garde cinema. Film scholars and cinephiles around the world study it for its daring aesthetic, its cultural importance, and its influence on later experimental and psychological horror films. Its rediscovery not only reconnected the world with a lost treasure of Japanese cinema, but also underscored the global nature of silent film innovation. Beyond the Rocks, 1922. Beyond the Rocks united two of silent cinema's biggest stars, Gloria Swanson and Rudolph Valentino. Directed by Sam Wood and released in 1922, this romantic melodrama was a dream pairing for audiences and studios alike. Adapted from a novel by Eleanor Glynn, the film tells the story of Theodora Fitzgerald, a young woman forced into a loveless marriage for her family's financial gain. Her heart, however, belongs to the dashing Lord Hector Brakendale, leading to a tale of forbidden love, duty, and desire. The film was a lavish production, featuring opulent costumes, extravagant sets, and emotional performances from its leads. After its initial success, Beyond the Rocks slipped into obscurity. Like many silent films, it fell victim to poor archival practices and the vulnerability of nitrate film stock. For decades, the movie was presumed lost. Its absence was particularly lamented because it was the only film to feature Swanson and Valentino together, two icons of the era whose careers rarely intersected. The Netherlands Film Museum undertook a careful restoration process, and the rediscovered film was reintroduced at international film festivals. Audiences were finally able to witness the legendary pairing of Swanson and Valentino on the big screen once more. The film's return to the spotlight serves as a powerful reminder of the value of private collections, international cooperation, and the relentless pursuit of lost cinema history. The Battle of the Century, 1927. The Battle of the Century is a legendary silent comedy short featuring the iconic duo Laurel and Hardy. Released in 1927 and directed by Clyde Bruckman, the film was produced under the guidance of Hal Roach. It quickly became famous for one particular scene, the largest pie fight ever captured on film. This slapstick climax involved hundreds of cream pies being hurled in rapid succession, a chaotic and hilarious crescendo that cemented the short's place in comedy history. Despite its fame, for many years the Battle of the Century was considered incomplete. The first reel had survived in the form of poor quality copies, but the second reel, containing the majority of the legendary pie fight, was thought lost. For decades, fans and archivists believed that a complete version of the film might never resurface. The loss was significant not just to fans of Laurel and Hardy, but to scholars studying the evolution of visual comedy in early cinema. The rediscovery of this reel was a landmark moment for silent film restoration and brought renewed attention to Laurel and Hardy's genius. Today, the Battle of the Century is revered not only for its humor, but for its historical and cultural impact. It stands as a high watermark in slapstick comedy and a testament to the enduring appeal of visual gags executed with precision and joy. Its rediscovery reaffirms the importance of continuing the search for lost works, as treasures like this still have the power to surprise, delight, and connect audiences across generations. Upstream, 1927. Upstream, a 1927 silent film directed by John Ford, offers a rare glimpse into the director's early forays into character-driven comedy. Before he became famous for his epic westerns like Stagecoach and The Searchers, Ford experimented with various genres. Upstream, set in a New York boarding house for theatrical performers, showcases his lighter, more whimsical side, centering on themes of ambition, love, and the camaraderie of showbiz outsiders. Their intertwining stories unfold in a way that foreshadows Ford's later skill in managing ensemble casts and weaving heartfelt moments with humor. Though it wasn't a major hit at the time of release, Upstream was noted for its technical proficiency and playful tone. It also marks one of the earliest uses of camera movement and subjective perspective in Ford's career, techniques he would refine in his later, more celebrated works. However, like many silent films, it was soon forgotten and eventually presumed lost. The print was in remarkably good condition, and after a thorough restoration, it was reintroduced to the public with great fanfare. For modern audiences, the film provides both entertainment and historical insight, illuminating a lesser-known chapter in the evolution of one of Hollywood's greatest filmmakers. The survival and revival of Upstream is a triumph for film preservation and a delightful reminder of cinema's ever-surprising past. Too Much Johnson, 1938. Too Much Johnson is a fascinating artifact in the early career of Orson Welles, the maverick filmmaker best known for his groundbreaking work on Citizen Kane. Created in 1938, this silent film comedy was intended to serve as a series of interludes for a stage adaptation of William Gillette's farce of the same name. The project, produced by Welles's Mercury Theatre, was never fully realized due to technical difficulties with synchronizing film and stage projections. As a result, Too Much Johnson was shelved, and for decades, thought lost. Energetic editing and a visual style far ahead of its time, Welles believed the original film elements were destroyed in a fire at his home in Spain in the 1970s. For years, film scholars treated Too Much Johnson as a lost link in Welles' artistic evolution, a glimpse into his formative years before Hollywood. Anecdotes, scripts, and production stills were all that remained. Though it lacked a soundtrack and final polish, the film was a revelation, showcasing Welles's early experiments with camera movement, slapstick timing, and narrative rhythm. The rediscovery proves that even unfinished, forgotten projects can hold immense historical and artistic value. It also underscores the unpredictability of film preservation. Sometimes masterpieces are hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found. Convention City, 1933. Convention City is perhaps the most infamous of all the lost pre-code films. Directed by Archie Mayo and released by Warner Bros. In 1933, this racy comedy featured a star-studded cast including Joan Blondell, Adolphe Menjou, Mary Astor, and Dick Powell. Set during a wild sales convention in Atlantic City, the film reveled in risque dialogue, flirtatious antics, and bawdy humor that epitomized the anything-goes spirit of Hollywood before the enforcement of the production code. When the Hays Code began to be strictly enforced in mid-1934, Convention City became an immediate casualty. The film was deemed too salacious to be shown or censored, and Warner Bros. Reportedly destroyed every known print. For decades, only scripts, stills, and promotional materials remain, fueling rumors and speculation about the film's true content. Its complete loss turned it into a kind of cinematic holy grail for pre-code enthusiasts, transforming it into a symbol of Hollywood's lost freedom and creative experimentation prior to the crackdown of the censorship era. Convention City's disappearance is a cautionary tale about the perils of censorship and the fragility of film heritage. The loss of an unfiltered glimpse into the irreverent, daring spirit of 1930s Hollywood. For now, Convention City lives on in legend, a reminder of a time when Hollywood dared to color outside the lines. The White Shadow, 1924. Before Alfred Hitchcock became the undisputed master of suspense, he was a budding filmmaker honing his craft behind the scenes. The White Shadow, a 1924 British silent drama, is among the earliest films to bear Hitchcock's creative fingerprint. Though directed by Graham Cutts, Hitchcock served as the assistant director, art director, editor, and writer. The story unfolds as the good sister attempts to save her wayward twin from a life of sin and tragedy. Though melodramatic by modern standards, The White Shadow was ambitious in its exploration of morality, identity, and fate. References to the film survived in old reviews and promotional materials, but no actual footage was known to exist. It wasn't until 2011 that 3 reels of the 6-reel film were found in the New Zealand Film Archive. While only part of the story survives, the film's visuals, carefully composed scenes, atmospheric lighting, and expressive performances reveal Hitchcock's early experimentation with suspense and identity. These preserved reels now offer an unprecedented glimpse into the director's formative years. The surviving footage is a precious artifact that enhances our understanding of one of cinema's most influential directors and the creative roots from which his genius would grow. The Matine Idol, 1928. The Matine Idol, directed by Frank Capra and released in 1928, is a romantic comedy that reveals the early charm and narrative sensibility of one of America's most beloved filmmakers. Long before Capra's name became synonymous with feel-good classics like It Happened One Night and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, he was experimenting with tone and structure in silent films. There, he meets a spirited director played by Bessie Love and falls for both her and the troupe's honest, if amateurish, approach to performance. The film cleverly contrasts Broadway's pomp with rural sincerity, delivering laughs and touching moments as the star gradually learns the value of authenticity over applause. For decades, it was believed lost, another casualty of nitrate decay and studio indifference. Film preservationists seized the opportunity to restore the film, recognizing its value not just as a charming romantic comedy, but as a stepping stone in Capra's directorial journey. Today, The Matine Idol holds a special place in film history as an early example of Frank Capra's storytelling prowess. The film's rediscovery not only delighted Capra enthusiasts, but also highlighted the importance of international film archives in rescuing lost American treasures. The Way of All Flesh, 1927. The Way of All Flesh, directed by Victor Fleming and starring the acclaimed German actor Emil Jannings, is one of the most enigmatic lost films of the silent era. The movie follows the tragic descent of a respectable bank clerk whose life unravels after he is robbed and left for dead, leading him to abandon his family and live in obscurity. The film's emotional depth and moral complexity were revolutionary for the time. Its storytelling marked a shift from theatrical exaggeration to subtle, psychologically driven performances that would shape future cinematic acting. For many years, The Way of All Flesh was thought to be gone forever. Nitrate degradation and careless storage practices led to the destruction of many silent-era prints, and no known copies of the film could be found. Scholars have pieced together its plot and impact through secondary materials, keeping its legacy in focus even without the full visual record. Hopes persist that a complete or near-complete print might yet emerge, as has happened with other long-lost films. For now, the film exists as a powerful legend, remembered for its profound narrative and the luminous, haunting performance of Emile Jannings. The Godless Girl, 1929. The Godless Girl, directed by Cecil B. DeMille and released in 1929, is a provocative exploration of faith, rebellion, and redemption set against the backdrop of a brutal reform school. The story begins in a high school where a clash between atheist and religious student groups ends in tragedy. The film was notable for its willingness to confront controversial social themes and moral conflict head-on. DeMille, known for his biblical epics, used this film to explore the gray areas of morality, questioning dogma and highlighting the human capacity for change. By the mid-20th century, the film was considered lost, with only fragments and publicity materials surviving. In the 1990s, film historians and archivists managed to piece together a version of The Godless Girl from various sources, including foreign archives and private collections. While some scenes remain missing, the reconstructed film offered modern audiences a glimpse into DeMille's more socially conscious filmmaking. The film's rediscovery reminds us that cinema has always had the potential to challenge conventions, provoke thought, and address complex societal issues. Johntown Flood, 1926. Johntown Flood, directed by Irving Cummings and released in 1926, dramatizes one of America's worst natural disasters, the catastrophic dam failure that devastated Johnstown, Pennsylvania in 1889. This silent film combined melodrama with large-scale special effects, creating an early disaster movie that captured audiences with its human emotion and epic spectacle. The film climaxes with a dramatic flood sequence created using elaborate miniatures and practical effects, impressively executed for the era. Despite its initial success, Johntown Flood faded into obscurity. As with many silent films, nitrate decomposition and changing industry priorities led to its near-complete disappearance. In recent years, efforts by film archives have led to the partial restoration of the film using surviving materials. While a full print remains elusive, enough footage has been recovered to offer a coherent viewing experience. Johntown Flood remains a notable entry in early American cinema for its blend of romance, tragedy, and special effects. Its partial recovery has reignited interest in both the film and the historical event it portrays. If you enjoyed this journey through forgotten Hollywood, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's hidden history. Thanks for watching. And remember, some stories are too powerful to stay buried.